Well, happy Friday, and it is a very good Friday. A lot of you are going to be extremely pleased for the breaking news that I have for you today. You see, just a few weeks ago, the IRS released a whole list of qualified manufacturers and each EV that's going to qualify for the full $7,500 tax credit. Now, this $7,500 tax credit in the future will be broken up into two pieces. One will be the critical mineral components, and the other will be the battery components being assembled in North America. But the Secretary has not released guidance on this, and they don't anticipate doing so until March. It doesn't say if it's the beginning of March, middle of March, end of March, just sometime in March of this year, we will get that guidance. But until then, right now, the IRS is treating EVs like the old rules when it comes to the battery. That means you get a base credit plus $417 per kilowatt hour that battery is. So of the vehicles on this list that are from a qualified manufacturer and are an EV, only 3 of them don't get the full $7,500, but they still get over $6,000. Now in this list, the IRS did also qualify each of these vehicles based on its classification. So in simple terms, it either gets a $55,000 MSRP cap or an $80,000 MSRP cap. As many of you know, Tesla was snubbed in this process, and most people were not surprised. But it wasn't just Tesla that got snubbed on this list. GM, Ford, and Volkswagen also got snubbed because of these rules. You see, when the rules came out, SUV was assumed to be qualified as the same standards that the EPA and the NHTSA use. That means vehicles like the Mach E and the Tesla Model Y are considered an SUV. Well, the IRS decided to use its own rules for depreciation, Section 179, to determine what exactly an SUV is. That means gross vehicle weight. So a lot of vehicles did not get the $80,000 MSRP cap that we were expecting. When that happened, there was a lot of noise, and because of the millions of dollars that is poured into Congress, I had no doubt that there was going to be some changes to this list, and it turns out today we definitely have those updates. This is great news, not just for Tesla customers, but also for Ford customers and General Motors customers, and certainly Volkswagen customers. You see, right now, this list of vehicles is what's assembled in North America, meaning it qualifies as being an EV in North America. And since we don't have rules yet or guidance from the Secretary on the critical minerals component or the battery components, that means as long as it's assembled in North America, it qualifies for $7,500. Now, it has to have a large enough battery, like I said, so there's a few of them that are in the $6,000 range, but we'll get more into that later. The biggest piece of this news is a lot of vehicles that were snubbed are no longer snubbed. The 80,000 MSRP cap list just grew substantially. The 55,000 MSRP cap shrunk. This is great news for everyone. I do want to start over at that 55,000 MSRP cap limit because this list is a little bit shorter than it was last time we talked about this. For the 55,000 MSRP cap, we have the Chevy Bolt EUV, Nissan Leaf Plus, BMW 330e, Tesla Model 3 Standard Range, Long Range, and Performance, as well as the Volvo S60. This shorter list is because some vehicles that were on the 55,000 MSRP cap last time we talked about this are now over on the 80,000 MSRP cap list. So let's take a look at that now. Starting now, all Volkswagen ID.4s, regardless of trim, all qualify for the 80,000 MSRP cap. The Ford Escape plug-in hybrid also qualifies under that 80,000 MSRP cap. The Ford Mach E, again, 80,000 MSRP cap. The Ford E-Transit and Chrysler Pacifica plug-in hybrid were already there. The Tesla Model Y, now you do not have to get a 7-seat to qualify for the 80,000 MSRP cap. All Model Ys are now under that 80,000 MSRP cap. The Lincoln Crosshair Grand Touring, which does have a slightly smaller battery than the maximum, so it will get a little bit of a reduced credit. Jeep Wrangler 4xe plug-in hybrid, Ford F-150 Lightning, Lincoln Aviator Grand Touring, Audi Q5 e-Quattro plug-in hybrid, Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xe plug-in hybrid, the Cadillac Lyriq, which was 55,000, is now 80,000, and the BMW X5 xDrive 45e, Rivian R1T, Rivian R1S. Let me know in the comments, did you order before this new rule and were you thinking you weren't going to get this and now you are? I'd love to hear how many people are excited about this. And if you're considering getting a Tesla or a Ford Mach E or an ID.4, This should be good news. Let me know in the comments which vehicle you're planning on getting in 2023. Some people would say that these changes were expected, and it was really a shot in the dark whether there was going to be enough lobbying to get this fixed. And it seems like, although I can't prove to you that lobbying made this happen, but given the 4 companies that benefited, 3 of which have been pouring millions of dollars a year into lobbying, I'm pretty sure we can see the writing on the wall. The good news is Tesla also gets carried along with those changes. I'm sure they didn't want Tesla to qualify, but I'm sure after a review, there was no real way to do this other than to qualify these per the EPA and NHTSA guidelines. That's my assumption of how they were able to do this, and I think that is the right move because you as the consumer are the ones who benefit. Had this not happened the way that it did, would Tesla have dropped prices as drastically as they did? I'm sure prices would have come down, but would they have come down to the extent that they did? I'm not so sure that it would. And here's the good news if you are in the market for a Tesla Model Y. At $52,990, those new prices came down, but they just recently went up another $500. And because of that, you're really only able to get one option. But now that it qualifies under an $80,000 MSRP cap, you can get all the options that your heart desires. What that means is we will not be flooded with a bunch of white Tesla Model Ys in the future. And just know this is retroactive to the beginning of the year. So if you bought a Tesla Model Y 5-seater, you got it black, it was $56,000 and it was a 5-seater, it's going to qualify. So that is great news too. Same for the Ford Mach E or any of these other vehicles that are now on the $80,000 list. If you bought an Id.4 and it wouldn't have qualified because it was too much money under the $55,000 cap, it now is qualified starting January 1st of this year. Now, do keep in mind, again, the Secretary has not provided guidance on critical minerals and battery components. Once that happens, these rules will change. So some vehicles on this list that are qualifying for $7,500 today may not qualify for that full $7,500 once that guidance is provided. Again, it's sometime in March. We don't know exactly when in March. When those rules come out, the $7,500 is broken up into $3,750 for the critical minerals, $3,750 for the battery components. So just keep that in mind. If you're in the market for one of these vehicles, I would move rather quickly just in case. Also, do keep in mind all the other rules as part of the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022 are in place. So you have income limits. Those income limits are in place: $150,000 for individuals, $300,000 for joint filers. Also, this is a non-refundable credit, so you must have tax liability in order to gain all of this credit. So if you only have $2,000 in tax liability, you're only going to get $2,000 of the credit, even if you qualify for the $7,500 otherwise. Your tax liability is the maximum that you can withdraw from this up to that $7,500. I sure hope that you enjoyed this video like I did. If you did, of course, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, of course, subscribe to the channel as we continue to post content regularly. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram @BeardedTesla. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.